Hello and welcome back. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm joined by Oliver Tew. Things going pretty much the way you drew them up so far, Oliver? Feeling good about the 2L?
Yeah, as I always draw it up, I just draw well, so it's been working out so far.
You even found lethal with the Pyroblast this time.
Yeah.
Hopefully the Twitter trolls will stay away for this round anyway. So we have been having some trouble trying to get Paul Riesel into the booth. He had initially been slated for commentary this round. Hopefully we'll be able to get Paul back later. And, suspect that is his koala picture.
Yeah.
On Oliver's side of the commentary screen. We'll get that cleaned up momentarily. Any particularly interesting spots in that match, did you think, Oliver?
Actually, a lot of them, especially when we had the library war going. There was a lot of interesting decisions. I definitely am sure that I did not make a lot of them correct, but I just used my intuition and try to find what line I thought was the best at the time. But in hindsight, if I could go back and look at it, I'm sure I'd make a lot of different plays. I'm not sure exactly what, because there's a lot of interesting decisions, but
yeah, it felt like a lot of close judgment calls. I mean, at some level, you both had library. It was not clear who was supposed to blink or what was supposed to go what. Mostly, I mean, it seems like you set up the balance, maybe not optimally, but at least good enough.
Yeah.
And then the balance was super, super good. All right. Well, It sounds like Paul is actually here, so I am going to turn you guys over to Paul and Oliver, and I'll see you later on in the show.
All right. See ya.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Paul?
Congratulations, you whooped me. Yeah. I actually texted Matt right as that game was going on. I said, well, it's one out here. It's got to be balanced. I didn't know if you had it already or if you're digging for it or whatever, but you'd seen so many cards that I figured it was pretty likely that you'd found balance.
Yeah, I actually found it off of that dig through time. I was pretty lucky, but that was the card I was playing towards.
Yeah, because I looked at the deck lists and it seemed like class situation where I kind of had to be the beatdown since you have just better cards in your deck, and my way to win was to go wide since you only have that one balance to kind of sweep. But congrats. That was a fun couple games. Both of us had playable draws in both the games, and off to a good start, 2-0.
Yep, for sure.
So now we have Rodrigo and Eric. Big pressure match for them, both starting 0-1. Really, in this double round robin format, you do not want to start 0-2. It's possible, but very difficult to win the league after starting this thing 0-2. So it's Efro and his Oath deck against Rodrigo playing Shops. What do you think about that matchup?
I have no clue, honestly. It seems very play draw dependent as Shops matchups generally are, but the card Oath is very important because Rodrigo plays a lot of creatures and is probably just going to turn on the Oath. So I'm not sure exactly. What is your take on the matchup?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you look at Rodrigo's sort of main deck configuration here, it's a lot of the traditional workshop disruptive elements, but ultimately he's going to need to be attacking with creatures in order to win. So Mission Factory is a great card for him because he can pile some counters onto it. But of course, Eric has plenty of answers to that. And you're looking at those 4 Grafdigger's cages and those Crucible of Worlds after sideboard to both keep Oath under control and then really start to go after Eric's mana with Strip Mine and 4 Wastelands.
Right. That's definitely the game plan from the Shops end of things.
Really wants to win that die roll because it is difficult to beat Oath on the draw game 1 when you're playing a creature deck.
Yeah, for sure.
So he needs to get some of those disruptive elements down there quickly prior to Eric getting Oath in play. And from Eric's perspective, it's pretty simple. Eric wants to fight the disruptive elements, fight on that axis. And then find that Oath, get into play, and establish the combo, which we've seen so far. And we've seen this deck quite a few times on Vintage Super League.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting one. When I was playing against Eric round 1, so we didn't have a deck list, I did not really know what to expect. I didn't know what he was going to hit off of Oath. I saw some Oath lists that are playing Sun Titan and Saheeli because they combo to go infinite, so I thought he might be on that, but then he ended up hitting the Salvagers, and that kind of explained things. But
I mean, you see him pretty well prepared here, right? He's got a main deck Ancient Grudge, which I think is pretty standard, but then 2 more Ancient Grudges, plus Nature's Claim, plus 2 Energy Flux in the sideboard, which is hell on a Mishra's Workshop deck.
Yeah. Energy Flux is definitely the ace card. But he has Dak Fade in 2, which is excellent in the matchup. Seems like Eric has the tools he needs to win. It's just a question of who wins the die roll and how good is the shop's opening hand, and if it's able to play a bunch of disruptive elements early on.
Now, by Eric's calculations, he's on a 32-match die roll losing streak, I think, if I saw it correctly. So,
yeah.
That's the first time that's ever happened in Vintage Super League. So this would be 33 if he were to lose this one.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on whether or not he's the hosting player, because as we know, the hosting player always gets screwed over by the die roll.
Hosting, yeah. Obviously, they've gone through many iterations of Magic Online, and certainly I'm as addicted as anybody else. But when they replaced the shuffler bug with the hosting player loses the die roll bug, that was done during one of the most recent updates that kind of slipped under the radar. Most people aren't aware of that. Players are just about ready. All right, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. What's the prediction? Who's going to win?
I'll go with Shops because Eric's going to lose the die roll.
That sounds pretty smart. Both these guys' backs are against the wall. I think that if you were to look at the 4 of us, prior to tonight's event, you would have said that certainly Eric and Rodrigo were the 2 with the most vintage experience. I think I would have made them the favorites. Obviously, you're off to a great start at 2-0, and one of these 2 is going to battle their way back to 1-1. So I will I'm going to go with Eric. I think that he's going to win the die roll here, just because 33 in a row is just so unlikely. So despite the fact that the previous trials have no impact on the current trial, I'm going to go with the old roulette theory of a number being due, and he's going to win this die roll. Sounds like the players are almost ready. These guys are just a little bit of difficulty to each more magic in just a moment. Hopefully, it did just restart my computer. Hopefully, I won't run into the same Skype bug that causes it to die roughly 45 minutes into any sort of Skype video.
Right. That would be ideal.
So when are you picking up your 4 copies of Dark Ritual? That's for first place.
Once the set drops, I'm going to be picking up all the Dark Rituals, all the Consecrated Sphinx. Start playing some Consecrated Sphinx on turn 4. Pretty broken.
Yeah. What I've seen them. All right, so it looks like the players are ready. So we are going to go down to the match number 4 of Vintage Super League playoffs. All right, as promised, Froehlich has won the die roll. I was right. 33 in a row is just a bridge too far. So looks like he's got some card draw spells, some lands.
Sorry about that. Accidentally closed the call.
That's all right. So Eric looks like he has a pretty playable draw on the play. Rodrigo on the draw has the eponymous Mishra's Workshop, and I think both players are pretty happy, and we're off to the races.
Yep. Eric's draw is a bit mana heavy, but that's always good in the Shops matchup, so it's definitely not a downside.
Didn't see what he hit with that preordain, but
wow, it seems like E on 2 is going to be pretty potent against Rodrigo's draw.
Yeah. 2 is pretty frequently I think the number you'd want to name against this deck. I mean, I think that one of the strengths of Workshop is how good it is against some builds with 4 mental missteps. But the weakness, of course, is a card like Engineered Explosives, or if you're able to get a Chalice of the Void on 2, it's just brutal for Workshop.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of similar to the modern Affinity deck, where a lot of the threats are at 2 mana.
Mm-hmm.
It's where a lot of the power artifact synergies are. What do you lead on from Rodrigo's end?
Yeah, so I like this play here. So he's led with Steel Overseer. Overseer is a threat in and of itself.
Oh, wow.
Gosh.
That's absurd.
Brutal Dodgers. It's going to be able to absolutely decimate Rodrigo's hand.
Yeah, almost a mind twist here, along with killing the Overseer. Super good. And he gets to hang on to Engineer Explosives for another creature.
Now you ponder and find Lotus here, right?
Yeah, that would be absurd.
Lotus with some sort of card draw on top. And Ponder's the perfect card draw spell here, too, because you have to choose which card to keep in hand. Ideally, something you can just put right into play. Okay, Force of Will.
Sure.
So the only question here is, do you put the land into play before you balance? I think Eric, with that Force of Will, values the ability to hard cast it. So he's going to leave Rodrigo with a second card in his hand and choose to play the post balance. And I think I like that.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't have the blue card right now, and even if he did have did draw a blue spell, he would not really want to pitch it to the Force of Will since he's so low in resources. So it seems like the extra land is better than some random card in his hands.
This is just a pure, clean 5-for-1 here on the second turn of the game. Just good, clean living.
Yeah, balance is not a very balanced card, as it turns out.
Crazy, huh? 2 straight games of Vintage Super League were balanced, which is not a card that we see a ton of in Vintage Super League. Just shows exactly why it's restricted.
Yeah, it's one of those weird restricted cards that isn't played in every deck, but it's definitely powerful when it ends up working out. There are a lot of games where it's really awkward, though.
I think that if it was a card that was unrestricted, you'd see people build their decks around.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, once your whole deck is built around it, you could do completely busted things. But when you can only play one, you can't really rely on drawing it every game.
Eric draws the worst card in his deck there, but can't really complain given the start here. And he has plenty of time to find more blue card drawing or Oath of Druids or something of that nature.
Yeah, but we're seeing the strength of the Workshop's deck is that even though he had to discard 5 cards, he's still operating fine thanks to just having 1 land that could reduce 3 mana. Right. Just letting him cast any spells off the top of his deck.
Just putting Mishra's Workshop into play is almost like casting Ancestral Recall, right?
Exactly.
So many mana drops for 1 card.
Yeah. Alright, Preordained should be able to find him some action. All Eric's looking for is Oath of Druids, and that should be good enough.
Right, with many redraws to things like Ancestral Recall or Planeswalkers or Delve or drawing spells.
Or Ancient Grudge, which he has in the main deck.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, deck fitting isn't the best here, but it's still very solid.
So,
this is pretty good.
Yep. This is going to make Ballista into a 3/3. I think what he's trying to do is bait Rodrigo into sacrificing his jet. Works pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, so basically what's going to happen next turn is that Dak's going to go to steal Walking Ballista. Ballista will trade off for the Dak Fade and deal a couple more damage to Eric, but it's going to leave Rodrigo extremely light.
Yeah.
Absolutely devoid of threats.
Yeah, it's just going to be a battle of who top decks better, because they're both on a bunch of mana, but not a lot of action.
Right. And this is one of the situations, and we've seen it time and time again, and I probably have harped on this too much for workshop fans out there, but it does not tend to top deck that well in the mid game because it's not playing the blue card draw spells. And at this point, you have a whole mess of your deck, stuff like Tangle Wire, that's just really not that good of a draw when you don't have some sort of a threat on the table.
Yeah, or any of the spheres. Yeah, that's definitely a weakness of this deck is you need to draw fast mana, disruption, and threats, and you don't have any preordains or ponders or whatever to help you find each of those components.
Is Eric playing a jet? Does he have Mox Jet in his deck? trying to think if it's possible that he can cast this Grizzlebrand.
Yeah, he is. So if he draws Jet and Lotus, he will be able to cast it.
All right, that'd be a fun way for this one to go.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. Both not getting the best draws here, but you have to imagine Eric is favored from the situation since he has all the cantrips in his deck that are basically very live draws.
Yep, and now he's also added Forbidden Orchard as another kind of brutal draw here.
Yeah, I think I would be tempted just to hold on to the Oath to incentivize Rodrigo to play a creature if he draws one, and then you could just Oath. But it's definitely close. I could see going either way. This basically makes it so he's not able to play any creatures from this point forward.
Yeah, and as we noted, Rodrigo's really only way there's the Lotus.
Okay.
Where most of the
Step one there, yeah.
Rodrigo's only way to do damage to Eric without attacking with creatures are shooting him with Walking Ballista, and then I guess it is still attacking with creature, but using Mishra's Factory, which doesn't trigger Oath of Druids. So
yeah.
I think Mishra's Factory is about as good of a draw as he can have right now.
Yeah, and that's a really slow clock, so.
Right, although Eric is at 11 with a Misty Rainforest in play, so yeah, Hangerback Walker, not what the doctor ordered here.
No, basically any creature is just a blank draw at this point, except for Ballista, like you noted.
Right.
Ballista would be pretty sweet here.
Yes.
Yeah. Pretty nice burn spell. Oh, there you go.
Right, and that he can. That's 7 damage right there. So
yeah, seems like Eric's gonna have to force it. Like your force is not getting any better. What else is he trying to force?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the Rodrigo doesn't have anything else in his deck, but yeah. I guess
none of his other cards do anything.
Yep.
I mean, you could just save the force for the next Ballista, I guess, but I don't know. Interesting. I didn't want to play it there.
I guess him thinking that he almost needs to build up to 22 mana first, right? Otherwise, it's just he's just going to be a 7 damage. Just 7 damage doesn't even get him started. So.
Yeah, 22 mana is very ambitious, though. I mean, he has 14 mana, which is a lot, but 22 mana is 8 more than that, and that's expecting a lot out of these draw steps.
Yeah, it's likely that Eric were to find his Jet before he finds 22 mana.
Yeah, for sure.
Jace the Mind Sculptor, maybe revealing another reason why Rodrigo chose to hold on to his Ballista, because at least now it can take a Planeswalker with it.
Yeah, I guess, but it seems like if you're killing Planeswalkers with the Ballista, you're not going to win that game.
Oh yeah, we're not mincing words here. Eric is in an absolutely dominant position here.
For sure.
He finds a backup, Jace the Mind Sculptor. So also let him put his Grizzlebrand back, which I don't think does even want to put the Grizzlebrand back.
I mean, hard casting it would be pretty sweet.
Right. I mean, it's not that ridiculous of a combo. Okay, he finds Ancestral now. He's starting to pile on a bit here.
And he just has that Ancient Grudge he doesn't need to use anything on because all of his opponent's cards don't do anything, so it's pretty sweet. So
now Rodrigo with a False Glimmer of Hope, and I think kind of a nice play from Eric here, leaving a hard cast Force of Will. Oh no, he'll just use the Misstep here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Misstep is so bad.
For sure.
Got to keep that Lotus around for black mana.
Yeah, very important.
Just absolutely churning through his deck right here, although...
Still hasn't found that Jet, though. I guess he doesn't have the Grizzlebrand anymore, so
yeah.
It's a moot point. But
we're a while away. Now it's just kind of trying to find an Orchard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually surprising he hasn't found one yet. He's gone through a lot of his deck.
Volcanic Island, Mental Misstep, Tundra, Mental Misstep, Flusterstorm is probably the worst sequence of 5 cards that he could have drawn in a row. Followed by 2 more lands.
Yeah. This is true.
You know, it's interesting. If he just the coast is clear for Rodrigo to just resolve 2 straight walking ballistas if he can draw another one.
Yeah, that'll be his 4th one, though. That's expecting... I mean, it is an out. I was putting Rodrigo on no outs, so it's better than nothing, but it's still very ambitious. But, I mean, at this point, you can't really get picky with your outs. Yeah, I like this play, just shutting him off of mana. Even though Rodrigo has a lot of mana, just being able to cut down on how big a ballista potentially could be seems worth it.
Yeah, I think Rodrigo identifying that this is sort of the one way to win this game.
Yeah.
6. We might see a situation where if Eric's fetch, draw step, Jace activation finds him nothing again, that he has to play another Jace to try to find some sort of action to make sure he doesn't randomly die to this walking ballista.
Right. That seems like the right play. It's not like the second Jace is doing anything anyways.
So Rodrigo, I guess, is debating whether he wants to just deal 6 to Eric or split the 6, 3 to Jace and 3 to Eric, since in theory another 6/6 ballista kills him either way. So kind of like taking the Jace with it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really seem like there's much of a downside because you're just playing to 1 out anyways, and it doesn't really affect that. And it just seems worth it to cut Eric off of draws to Force Will.
Technically speaking, right, the tightest way to do this would be to wait till Eric's upkeep. Because doesn't Oath check on resolution of the trigger? I think that's the way it works. I guess I
Pretty
probably
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, what are you really playing around by doing a turn?
Well, you're not playing around anything. You're just not giving Eric that information of what you're doing, so that if anything Eric would do, like casting a grudge on Thorn on end step, is done with minimal information. Maybe Eric thinks Rodrigo's a madman. He's just going to let him oath.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if there's no downside, then might as well.
Right, yeah. I mean, the downside traditionally would be something like a split-second spell or something of that nature, but at this point, the players have each other's deck lists, so...
Yeah.
And we see that he does, in fact, pass the turn, so Eric's thinking on end step, and the one option we see available is the ability to grudge something. He chooses not to.
Yeah. Doesn't really seem like grudging the ballista's worth it when you get an oath trigger out of it.
Yeah. Well, you could also have considered grudging the Thorn on end step, because this is a turn where he may need to play Jace and find something up. Wow.
I
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess he wants to force Eric to use some sort of removal on it, because if he doesn't, then he's just threatening being able to put more ++ encounters on it, but that's not even good because the workshops can't add counters onto the ballista.
Yeah, this is one where I think that the play of letting Eric oath there is a little above my pay grade. I don't...
Yeah. Oh, well, Eric found the combo, so that should do it.
That's deterministic.
Yeah.
So you can use Jace, minus it, bounce the ballista, and then it's... well, I guess with Thorn... Oh, you can grudge the Thorn, yeah. So...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not infinite like Thorn play. That's true.
But he has the rest of it. All he has to do is he has to grudge the Thorn, minus Jace on walking ballista, and then...
Yeah, should do it.
So Eric is going to take a 1-0 lead. Although, as we mentioned, in the pregame, Rodrigo has multiple really kind of exciting weapons to bring in. Not the least of which is 4 Grafdigger's Cage, which stops the Oath of Druids trigger, stops things like Flashback, Ancient Grudge, and Crucible of Worlds, which lets Rodrigo play a much more interactive game. Messing with Eric's lands. So,
yeah.
And then of course, for game 2, we're going to see Rodrigo on the play, which. When you're talking about a workshop disruptive deck like he's developed, it's huge.
Yeah.
This game really, the turning point, a lot has happened since then, but the balance 5-for-1ing Rodrigo and really just decimating his hand before he even got started was kind of the story of this first game.
Yeah. Balance was very powerful in Eric's given hands with all the artifact mana.
It was unbalanced. You could
Yeah,
say.
certainly. So it looks like he's just ignoring Jace here, going for face. Which makes sense, I guess, but it doesn't really change anything. Because he's basically dead next turn regardless, so might as well, I don't know, get max damage in.
Well, he's dead this turn, right?
Well, yeah, but he doesn't know that.
Yeah, right.
Alright. Should do it.
Unless Eric doesn't have a land in his deck.
Yeah, it could be a note.
All right, so we mentioned already kind of in the end of that game, Rodrigo's sideboard plan. We see it takes out stuff like hangerback walkers, which are more effective against other creature strategies.
Yeah. Well, Eric also gets a lot of artifact destruction, so who do you think gets the better tools post-board? Like, who do you think's favored?
You know, it's interesting. I think that actually the way that Eric's deck is configured, he actually gets better tools because artifact removal matches up really well with Rodrigo's answer of Grafdigger's Cage.
Right.
But I think that the matchup is favorable enough for Eric in game one that I think that Rodrigo would still rather play post-sideboarded games. And of course, he's going to get to be on the play for one of those games in which he'll be a fairly sizable favorite.
Yeah, it's really awkward how the Oath Hate card, Grafdigger's Cage, gets hit by all the artifact removal that Eric's bound to bring in.
Right.
So it's not ideal, but there's not really any better options because you're a colorless deck and have to play only colorless cards.
All right, this is a big one.
Yeah. So.
Rodrigo knows how to find those workshops in the opening hand, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's a big key to winning with this deck. Yeah, his hand looks excellent. Both hands look very good.
Right, that Rodrigo is turn one Ravager and Grafdigger's Cage, and then he can follow up with Revokers on whatever Eric plays. Eric is going to be happy. He's got lots of mana, which is always good against shops, card drawing spells, and DAC, which is spectacular.
Yeah. Should be interesting to see how this plays out. And Eric gets to ignore Grafdigger's Cage for the time being, which is nice. Oh, I guess Rodrigo doesn't even want to play Grafdigger's Cage and expose it to any artifact removal or anything.
Mm-hmm. Right. I guess if you know your opponent's anti-artifact measure, their main one is Ancient Grudge, you want to play Cage when Grudge is already in the yard.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
it also it also makes it so Eric doesn't know that the Cage is coming and might make a play like turn one Oath or whatever. What were you going to say, though?
I was going to say, if Rodrigo had just blind Revokered Mox Emerald, do you think he would get kicked out of the league during the game? Or do you think...
That would have been a pretty masterful name. I don't know. What do you generally name? Just if Rodrigo didn't have Ravager there and just decided to play the Revoker, what would you name in that position?
Maybe like Misty Rainforest? I don't know.
You can't name lands with it.
It's non-land?
Yeah.
Shows you how much I play with that card. I don't know. I mean, you're playing with a lot of the same cards as your opponent is, so...
Yeah, it seems like Dak or one of the Planeswalkers is probably a good name.
So, Rodrigo's doing kind of exactly what he wants to do. He's on the play. The Tangle Wire was a really strong draw. And, we see the difference in value of Tangle Wire being on when you have threats in play versus when you don't. Here, it's obviously excellent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Rodrigo's draw of fast mana, pressure, and disruption is working out well. And he's also on the play, so basically everything just came up well for him. Even though Eric's draw is quite good, just the die roll, or whoever's playing first, just overpowers that.
This is one of the situations where Eric is, not under a tremendous amount of life total pressure, and he may be thinking to himself, well, if I can just wait for this tangle wire to tick down a little bit, I might be able to get myself back into this game. And historically in the situation, that's when Workshop draws another lock piece, and they just right when you think you're getting into it, they find one more thing to kind of set you back.
Yeah, in these kind of situations, you just have to hope they draw a lot of mana because they have a lot of mana in their deck. So that's one of the big ways that they tend to lose control of games just by floating out. So it's generally the main hope.
Once again, you know, for Eric, balance would just be the absolute best possible card here.
Yep. Would be quite good.
Although he'd certainly be fine with just an Ancient Grudge.
Yeah, basically any of his sideboard cards for the most part. I guess like Nature's Claim is pretty low impact, but any of the cards that trade for multiple cards should be good. Energy Flux would be nice, although Energy Flux is not great for Eric, but...
Yeah, he actually can't cast Energy Flux on... Oh no, actually he can, because Rodrigo named Engineer Explosives with that Revoker.
Oh, really? Oh.
With Soul Ring.
Interesting.
Rodrigo considers whether this is the time to bite on Grafdigger's Cage. Notices that Eric does not currently have any red mana, so he's going to put it out right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Eric has a lot of artifacts he needs to deal with anyways, so...
Yep.
Although, artifact destruction into Oath is a way for Eric to get back into this game. The problem is, even if he decks the Grafdigger's Cage, it doesn't really do anything.
Right.
So he has to find an actual artifact destruction spell, rather than just stealing it.
Not a very comfortable situation for Rodrigo, though, as you know, many Oath have been triggered unexpectedly by a shatter effect on Grafdigger's Cage with the Oath trigger on the stack. So, you know, Rodrigo, with no idea what Eric has in his hand, can't feel too comfortable that this cage is going to protect him.
Right. Although he does get some comfort because of the Caracas, so if Eric hits Gristlebrand, that doesn't really matter too much. Although it's always a bit scary with Oath because he could hit a non-legendary creature that will end up being really effective, like the Salvagers.
Sphere, a beautiful draw here. Rodrigo can sacrifice Jet and put Eric down to 9, and then threaten lethal next turn.
Yeah. Ravager's a powerful card. Very fast clock. But it also requires a lot of courage, because if Eric does end up having a way to disrupt it, then you invested a lot of resources into making the Ravager really big.
Right. Do you know Arcbound Ravager was 3 mana until the very last second in development, and then they changed it to 2 mana because they wanted the modular mechanic to be more pushed and constructed.
Yeah, sounds similar to what they did with vehicles with Smuggler's Copter. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly the history of Copter, but it seems like it kept on getting pushed because I don't know how they really arrived at such a bonkers card. They also printed Skull Clamp was in a different set, right? Or was it the same set?
Skull Clamp was in the same set. They were both in Darksteel.
Wow, yeah. Skull Clamp was also obviously incredibly pushed in terms of how cheap it costs and how cheap the equip cost is.
So here's a spot where Eric is dead if Rodrigo goes for it.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he's not. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I'm sorry. Not dead. Needs to draw an artifact.
Yeah. There are a lot of artifacts in this deck, though, so Eric can't be feeling too good, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, one second.
That's all right. So as Oliver sees what delicious food just got delivered, we're going to see if Rodrigo draws an artifact to attack for lethal, and if he'll go for it into 1 untapped mana. The players will have... So he draws an artifact.
Sorry about that.
So it draws the artifact. Now the question is, I'm pulling up Eric's deck list right now to see if there's any one casting cost. We know Nature's Claim for sure already, so not necessarily a guarantee that he's going to go for it here.
Well, he has the sphere, so Nature's Claim isn't enough.
Oh no, he can just.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He can just make another Ravager, right? So then that's.
Oh yeah, that counts as 2 counters. So.
Yep.
You could keep the sphere around. All right. Yeah, that's good stuff. Wow. I'm pretty sure even if he didn't have the, if it was some random artifact, not Metamorph, you still go for it there because based on Eric's plays, it doesn't seem very likely he has Nature's Claim in his hands.
Totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. Although that's again, like you mentioned, it takes some courage, right? Whenever you're going to sacrifice everything that you have to make 1/9/9 creature against open mana and the deck with instants in it, it does take some courage because Eric is certainly a player capable of a play like holding that for a moment of this nature. But now he's going to be able to present lethal damage with a sphere still in play. So
yeah,
no worries.
Yeah, very well played from Rodrigo. And it's going to game 3.
Yep. My prediction is that this is just an absolutely brutal energy flux game. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's tends to how it be. If like the Workshops deck loses game 1, it just can't feel great about its chances because there's so many potent sideboard cards against it. Ooh. Energy Flux, you say? What about a turn 1 Energy Flux?
Well, he's probably just going to play Library.
Yeah, he could. But yeah, I mean, that's probably better. Yeah, I guess you just Library go, and then Rodrigo plays an Artifact or Sling, and then you can just Energy Flux the turn after. Wow, this hand is really hateful. It has the Ancient Grudge, too. And the Engineered Explosives.
Yeah. I don't think I have much to add on my prediction of this being an absolutely brutal energy flux game.
Yeah. Wow. Just dumping out all these artifacts. Wow. Black Lotus Energy Flux. That's some powerful stuff.
Oh, and a blue card, too. I mean, it's just so perfect.
Wow. It's absurd.
Magic Online Gods paying Eric back for his 1-32 streak in die rolls, one draw step at a time. This is just a, gut-wrenching moment here. You got your next draw and, Library. Oh, I can deal with a Library. Lotus Energy Flux. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's absurdly brutal.
That's the kind of thing that gets you kicked out of a casual Magic group.
Yeah. Just mitigating too hard against your friends.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you show up with Nature's Claim or like English or Shattering, something like that. It's like, okay, that's the downside of playing Artifact deck. But when you show up with Energy Flux, I mean...
Yeah, it's just unreasonable.
Yeah, it's unreasonable.
Especially on turn 2. It's not cool. Wow.
Now,
I guess he could start adding counters.
Yeah. It's going to cost him about 6 life and 3 turns. Meanwhile, Eric's going to be being Library the whole time.
Yeah. Can't feel great about your opponent drawing 2 cards a turn while you're doing nothing.
The good news, if there is good news for Rodrigo fans, is that Eric had not found blue mana before that. Okay. So now he's going to be able to grudge the Rancher Bomb before it gets up to 3.
Yeah. Yeah, it did not seem likely that Eric was going to miss on mana there because of the Library drawing him so many extra cards. It was a possibility, though.
I played a lot of Affinity in my life, so I feel for Rodrigo here.
Yeah, same. I played a lot of Affinity. It's actually what I played in my second Pro Tour.
If you're Eric, it's just like you're trying to think of like the paths that you can lose the game, and
Yeah.
the vast majority involve major internet connection problems in the Las Vegas area.
Yeah, I mean, in Vintage, really crazy stuff could happen, but when you're playing against workshops while you have Ancient Grudge and Force of Will, you can't really be that scared about anything. It's a very nice feeling.
Ancient Grudge, Force of Will, another artifact removal spell, and a card drawing engine in play.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts.
So Eric's going to grudge this Ratchet Bomb now. Lets it tick up to 2 to torture Rodrigo.
Yeah. Give him that false glimmer of hope. Wow, not conceding here. Must take a lot of willpower.
Yeah, I respect it. Next up is you against Rodrigo, right? That's the next match?
Yeah.
So how do you think you're going to fare against this this artifact strategy? He obviously, he predicted that you would play Mentor. So he's ready for you. Are you ready for him?
A little bit. I think game 1's going to be really rough because I have some dead cards like Pyroblast and some other stuff. But I think post-board I have a lot of tools for the matchup with Stony Silence and Disenchant effects and stuff. So
Deflux.
I do not have Energy Flux, unfortunately. I have Stony Silence, though, which is pretty close and is a mana cheaper. So
right.
Not quite as potent, but also easier to cast through all the sphere effects and whatnot.
Yeah, big match coming up. I mean, Rodrigo is going to fall to 0-2 here, and barring a miracle,
maybe Eric will cast Balance. That could be his out.
Yeah. You're going to obviously be 2-0. So given the format here, the double round robin, falling to 0-3 is a death sentence. That's there's no kind of tiebreaker miracles. You would need everyone in the league to go 3-3 over the 2, which is just, it's possible, but it's extremely unlikely. So Rodrigo will be fighting for his tournament life for all intents and purposes. And 3-0, you won't have locked anything up yet, but certainly in the catbird seat if you're able to win this next one.
Yeah. We'll see what goes down.
Where we have 2 2-1s and 2 1-2s, which I think that makes for exciting viewing. So why don't you just throw it to Rodrigo?
Yeah, that tends to be what's happening in this league so far. All the records seem to be getting pretty clumped up, so we'll see if that trend continues.
So Eric here, really the only thing left for him to do is to find. He's got pretty much, and there it is. So he has the Oath of Druids now. He's got the Forbidden Orchard.
Yeah.
Rodrigo's going to be able to Ballista his own Spirit for a turn and Wasteland the Forbidden Orchard, but that's just going to be another huge sink of resources and really kind of delay the inevitable.
Yeah, exactly. Eric's just gaining so much each turn in card quality with Dak Faden, and he gets to use his card draw spells to get up on cards, so there's really no coming back from here. Eric doesn't even need to do anything to this Grafdigger's Cage because it's going to cost Rodrigo 2 mana every turn. I mean, he could if he wants to, but it's not necessary.
I think that he probably will, given the 2 Force of Wills in his hand. I think he'll be merciful. Yeah.
For sure.
Just Cage.
Although,
claim on
Rodrigo has 2.
What's that?
I mean, since Rodrigo has 2 of them, you could just let both of them stay in play.
Yeah, maybe now you do give him 1 turn to have to pay for the upkeep.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think Eric's in any rush. He just doesn't have to worry about anything, but
right.
I would respect just wanting to get this game over with, so...
Right. Are you familiar with what the coup de grace is? Or coup de the GRAC. I'm not sure the exact French pronunciation, but are you familiar with what the origin of that is?
No, I'm not.
So, Chat will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but it was in like a medieval execution, basically, in which someone was being pressed with stones or stretched or something like that, in which mercifully they would say, okay, fine, he's had enough, and someone would just go hit him in the head with a club or something like that and hit him with some sort of lethal blow.
Right. Yeah, so basically what Eric's trying to do here.
I was saying that if Eric was merciful, he would have done that already.
Yeah.
That he's just
puts another looks rock. Like Eric is not.
Rodrigo can't breathe, and it's just another rock, another rock, another rock.
I mean, winning with Oath of Druids just pretty lame.
This is disrespectful.
Yeah.
I think this results kind of official league sanction. Randy is listening. That's not fair.
Yeah. Wow. This is an impressive display of willpower from Rodrigo to not concede at this point. And
it's really a testament to Shuhei that Eric is doing here, because Shuhei famously would just never cast anything during any of his matches. He would just have 50 cards in his hand and be discarding ancestrals and stuff like that, and just refuse to kill his opponent, waiting until he had at least 4 Force of Wills back up to do anything. So, Eric with a nice testament to his friend Shuhei.
I mean, when you're playing Shuhei's deck, you have to play like Shuhei, right?
That's like the scene at the end of Braveheart, right? The crowd starts and they want blood. They want William Wallace to be killed, But then at some point you're just like, give him mercy. You know what I mean? Like, the guy has shown plenty of bravery.
I'm getting aggro with the factories now. Just disregarding everything else. Just want to get in there with some factories for that 4 damage.
Right, here's a situation where Eric could Nature's Claim both of his energy fluxes, Force of Will one of them, and then win.
Yeah. Would you consider that disrespectful or sportsmanlike?
I already think he should be sanctioned officially by the league for second energy flux.
Yeah.
I don't know if the VSL has an official league sanctioning mechanism, though.
Yeah, I don't remember them going over that, but I don't know. Maybe Eric is going to expose us to something new today.
They don't go over that in new player orientation?
Yeah. Oh, there's that Mox Jet we're looking for the other game.
Yep. Wow, and he discards it so callously.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to pay 4 mana every turn to leave it around. It doesn't really seem worth it, even though Mox Jet was going to be the man that one game.
So now Eric, without that Library of Alexandria, is going to go for the Jace plus kill, which is, I think the worst ways to be finished.
Yeah, certainly. It's a long, grindy process.
Right.
Oh, does that do it? Does he have the Lotus and Spellbomb? He has the Lotus. Yeah. No Spellbomb, though. Ooh, maybe Eric will make infinite mana and then not end up doing anything with it. That'd be pretty sweet.
We've been discussing methods of medieval torture and execution.
Yeah.
In the United States, there are still, some states that have the death penalty, and in some of them, Utah, for example, lethal injections available to all inmates, but they can choose an alternative form. For example, the firing squad. Lethal injection sometimes can take some time, so people just pick the firing squad. They say, let me get this over with.
Yeah. Rodrigo is definitely not one of those people, though. He's like,
no.
Give me the slowest, painful, the most painful death that you have available. I guess Erickson had 17 cards. Some milling action. Does Eric play Memories, Journey, or any of that stuff to prevent self-mill?
I'm not sure.
Doesn't appear so. So, you know, the milling plan's still available. Although I don't know how likely that is to work, given this JSON 9.
There's a DAC emblem. He finds Pyroblast or something.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I actually got to use the DAC emblem for the first time today, and I realized that it doesn't actually do anything because basically all the spells that target kill the creature it's targeting.
I did steal a Grizzlebrand with a Pyroblast one time.
Yeah. Yeah, I did notice the synergy with Pyroblast. It's pretty sweet, but it's about the only one.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know what's going on in the game anymore.
Yeah. It's still somehow going on, which is interesting.
He found Pirate Spellbomb. So.
Oh, okay. Not there. It's over.
All we can do is just apologize, I think, for what people just saw. Just an absolute heartbreaking beatdown right there. Eric battles back to 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Rodrigo falls to 0 and 2. So you're up next. You're going to be playing a downtrodden, but clearly not defeated Rodrigo. He's going to make you fight and scrap for every inch of battlefield. So I wish you good luck.
Thank you.
We'll take a very short break, and we'll be right back with Oliver 2 and versus Rodrigo Togores in match number 5, week 1 of the playoffs. Right back with more Vintage Super League.